What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video from the channel. And today we're going to be talking about the 2020 presidential election. If Bernie Sanders was the Democratic nominee, and this is all assuming COVID-19 happened, BLM protests broke out. Obviously, same situation, just are replacing Joe Biden with Bernie Sanders. And for the sake of choosing running mates, obviously Trump is Mike Pence. I chose Elizabeth Warren as Bernie Sanders' running mate. There was a lot of speculation about that. And I just think I think she really would have been up there in contention. So we're gonna start out by filling out the safe states, and again, this is kind of just a fun video to show because this is kind of a controversial opinion that I have, and you'll see why. But I'll just fill out all of the safe states for Sanders and Trump. Nothing really changes here except I'm clearly missing something. New York, that's what I'm missing. So, same with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Actually, you know what? We'll touch Oregon in a second. All these would be safe. Missouri would also be safe, which I didn't do for Biden versus Trump. So, South Carolina would be safe. Bernie Sanders underperformed Hillary Clinton, Clinton won the black vote in the Democratic primary in 2016, and Biden won the black vote in 2020. Sanders doesn't really have a good record with the black vote, if I'm being completely honest here. But so that's why South Carolina would be safe, and Alaska would. You know what? I'll just leave it as likely to be conservative. So now there are some likely states for Sanders and Warren. Actually, Colorado would be safe. Bernie Sanders has a very big base in Colorado. He won the primary both times, and he just generally appeals to these voters for whatever reason. Colorado is one of the states that Sanders is very well in. So Colorado would just barely vote to the right of New Mexico or of Oregon. Now New Mexico would be likely, I believe. I mean, Sanders would probably he'd probably overperform Biden by a little bit. So it could actually, I'm kind of flip-flopping here, but New Mexico would actually be safe. Arizona's not. But New Mexico would actually be safe. But Sanders actually outperformed Joe Biden significantly with Latinos, so that's why South Carolina, because Biden is a lot better with the black vote, so that's why South Carolina is safe, but that's why New Mexico and Colorado are safe as well. So, yeah. Now, Oregon is just going to be likely, it'll be like 11-point margin of victory for Sanders, and I only say this because of the fact that Oregon is kind of a moderate state, and yet there are a lot of liberals, in Portland, for example, and there are a lot of conservatives out here. But Oregon kind of evens out a little bit. Clinton won it by 9 in 2016, and I don't see Sanders doing too much better than her. So, I think he'd underperform Biden, is what I'm trying to say here. So Oregon likely for Sanders, but it's still not very competitive. Now, we're not going to touch Virginia just yet. New Hampshire would be likely, though. Sanders would probably actually overperform Joe Biden by a little bit here. Maybe he'd win by 9 points when Biden won by 7.2. Because he did a lot better than Biden in the New Hampshire primary. Now, remember that the moderates did very well in New Hampshire in the primary, better than expected. Sanders only beat Buttigieg by like 2 points there. But in 2016, just did so well, and I just don't see Trump really being able to win New Hampshire. If he couldn't do it against Joe Biden, he probably couldn't do it against Bernie Sanders when Sanders is, because New Hampshire's right in Bernie's backyard. So yeah, Maine at large, it's always going to be likely no matter who you run for the Democrats, basically. So 2 of 3 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders, 122 for Donald Trump. Now Alaska, that would be very solid for Donald Trump, just 11-point margin of victory to be conservative. Now, Texas would also be likely. I see Sanders doing a little worse than Biden because Biden was able to flip Tarrant County, first of all. Sanders probably wouldn't do that. He'd probably lose Tarrant County by like 5 points, maybe 10 points. And Biden was just able to outperform Clinton, just all in these rural counties of Texas. Sanders wouldn't be able to do that. He'd probably underperform Clinton. And yeah, Sanders would have done a lot better with the Latino vote down here, which is why he wouldn't significantly underperform Biden, but he'd underperform Biden by like half a percentage point. So same thing, he'd lose Texas by around 6%. Now, Iowa in Ohio, well, not Pennsylvania, that's not likely. Now, Iowa and Ohio would say the same, they'd maintain their likely status. It'd probably be a little more, because remember, this is going to be very controversial. I think that the people in the Rust Belt would benefit most from Bernie Sanders' hypothetical socialism, or democratic socialism, rather. Don't want to, trigger anyone. But people are not informed on their well-interest, and this goes for both parties. There are Democrats who vote Republican when it wouldn't help them, and there are Republicans who vote Democrat when it wouldn't help them. I don't want to talk about this in a partisan sense, but it's very hard for me to do this because I kind of dance around the topic. Of course, I have my own political views. That's great for me. But I'm just saying that people are not informed on what helps them. It's unfortunate, I agree, but I just don't see Bernie Sanders with Trump just being able to. He can literally call him a socialist. Bernie Sanders is a self-proclaimed socialist. He can call him a socialist, and that's going to hurt him in places like Florida and the Rust Belt. It's a fact. It's not debatable. Whether Sanders' policies help these people, that's completely debatable, but it's not debatable that Donald Trump can literally just go to Iowa and Ohio and Michigan. He can say Bernie Sanders is a socialist. We don't want to end up like China or the USSR. That's all he has to do. That's why he'd win these places by the same amount he beat Hillary Clinton by, maybe more. So yeah, and that's overall why I think Bernie Sanders is a bad candidate. I don't think Bernie Sanders is being paid by China to run for president. I think Bernie Sanders is a decent. I don't agree with his policies, but I think he's a good man. But there are a lot of people who genuinely believe this stuff. People believe that Joe Biden is a communist. That's so far from the truth. And Bernie Sanders isn't a communist, for the record. So yeah, just need to clear that up. I got a little worked up there. Now, Maine, second congressional district. Sanders would probably do a little better than Biden just because he's from Vermont and he's northeastern. They tend to vote together, but still lose it by like 6 or 7 points. So yeah, I think that's basically it. Now, for the lean states, I really only see, I see 3, actually. So, first, for Nebraska's 2nd district, I think, you know what? So we're not going to touch that quite yet. But Virginia would be lean. And I say it's closer to tilt than likely, and people are going to say, oh, Virginia's a solid blue state, UEP, that's stupid. Now, Virginia is solid blue, and I don't think that Donald Trump would win it. He'd have a chance against Sanders, but Virginia is a very moderate state. They like to vote moderates. Think of a progressive Democrat that Virginians have elected to statewide level. There isn't one. So Virginia, there are a lot of gun-owning Democrats who broke for Biden in the end. That helped him in Virginia to help him run up the score. Sanders will still be able to probably run up the score in Fairfax County, but he has worse black support than Joe Biden, first of all, and he has a lot worse moderate support and conservative support, obviously. So he'd win Virginia, but it'll only be like 2 or 3%. So yeah, that's the only lean Sanders state. There are going to be quite a few lean Trump states. See if he gets to 270 because of this. No, he doesn't. Okay, good. Because I want this video to go down the wire. So, these 4 lean Sunbelt states for Donald Trump, starting with North Carolina. So, let me just take a sip of water. Now, in the state of North Carolina, Bernie Sanders would probably lose by the same margin. Actually, no, but he'd lose by a little more than Hillary Clinton. He'd lose by like 4.5%. Clinton lost by 3.8. 3.6, something like that. And I say this for the sole reason of Bernie Sanders just does not have the ability to turn up the score with black voters. So that's why I don't think he really do well in North Carolina. That's why South Carolina is safe for Donald Trump, even though Biden made it likely. I also think that he does not have the appeal to the moderate voters in North Carolina that broke for Roy Cooper. That's why Cooper won re-election as governor, yet Cunningham and Biden lost the state. There are a lot of moderates in North Carolina who lean Republican that Cooper was able to appeal to that Cunningham couldn't and Biden couldn't. Now, of course, a lot of them did break for Biden, but more of them broke for Cooper, and I don't think they would see any of those people breaking for Sanders. Now, Sanders has a big base, don't get me wrong. He has a very enthusiastic big base, but he just does not have the appeal to the moderate voters and to the establishment voters and to the the only group that he has appealed to that's not his base is maybe the more centered populist in the Rust Belt who went for Trump in 2016 and split in 2020. But even then, there are a lot of them who are going to stay with Trump because A, Trump is very good at getting people to stay with him because his base is so enthusiastic. B, Bernie Sanders it's very easy to label him as a communist. So that's why I think he's a weak candidate. Now I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this because Bernie Sanders supporters, progressives dominate the internet. I'm not a progressive personally. I have some progressive policies, but sorry, that's not what I'm talking about. But the fact of the matter is, Bernie Sanders just does not have the ability that Joe Biden does to run up the score with black voters in North Carolina. It's just a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. We saw in the primary in both years. He lost to Hillary Clinton with the black vote. He lost to Joe Biden solidly with the black vote. That's why he couldn't compete in the South. He wasn't even competitive. Now, Georgia is another one that would be lean. I think it would actually vote to the left of North Carolina. As it did in 2020, for the record. Obviously, but Georgia went blue. No, North Carolina stayed with Donald Trump. But, just being completely honest here, I don't really think that Sanders would have a chance in any of these states. And we'll move on to Florida in a second. But Georgia, same with North Carolina. It comes down to can Democrats do well with the black vote or not do well? They always do well. Can they run up the score in the urban areas? And Sanders could do that with the urban white vote, college-educated white vote, but he couldn't do that with the black vote the way that Joe Biden did in Georgia. So I think he'd lose by 2 to 3%. Now, going on to Florida, Florida's closer to, and for the record, Georgia's closer to tilt than likely, but North Carolina and Florida are both closer to likely than tilt. So Florida, I actually think would be a lock for Trump, and it would be like a 5 to 6 point margin of victory. We're going to be conservative here and say it's only going to be lean. But I say this because of the fact that these Hispanics in Miami-Dade County, they're not like solid Democrats the way like the Hispanic vote in Texas or Arizona. And we're talking about Arizona in a second, but the Hispanic vote in Texas and Arizona, that's solidly Democratic. Now, in a state like Florida, it's a different story because a lot of these are Cuban and Venezuelan immigrants, and there are a lot of Hispanic voters who even usually vote Democrat. These are Democratic Hispanic voters who are going to vote for Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders because the idea of socialism scares them so much because they left their country as a result of that. Now, there are a lot of Cuban Hispanics and Venezuelan Hispanics and Colombian Hispanics, and I can go on and on in Florida, that already are Republicans that are no way can switch to Bernie Sanders. So he'd lose Florida by a solid 4.5 to 5 point margin. He'd underperform Biden with the Hispanic vote, which I didn't think was possible. And he'd get murdered in the Panhandle, whereas Biden was able to do better. He'd lose Duval County, which Biden won, and he'd probably lose one of the Tampa Bay counties, and I'm forgetting the name of it. And he'd lose St. Lucie County, so he'd lose all the bellwethers in Florida, and he'd get like 45% of the vote there. So, yeah. Now, going over to Arizona, this is our last lean state for Donald Trump. I think that, I really do think that Arizona would go to Donald Trump by maybe a little bit than he did in 2016, because Arizona is a very moderate state. Now, I get that Donald Trump ruffled the feathers of a lot of Arizonians when he insulted John McCain, who is very respected, and I think he is a great man. But I don't think that would be enough because Biden barely won Arizona with all that going on. But I think that Donald Trump, he really ruffled the feathers of a lot of Arizonians when he did that, and he still lose a few votes because of that. But we also have to remember that, Donald Trump is, I think it's debatable whether he's more moderate than Bernie Sanders. In my opinion, he's not, but in the eyes of most Americans, he is. In Arizona, that wouldn't bode well for him, or that wouldn't bode well for Bernie Sanders. I think that the Latino vote would be a little better. So Sanders would outperform Biden a little bit down here in like Yuma County or Santa Cruz County or whatever they're called. But he would do horribly in the suburbs, of which Biden was able to do well, and he'd do horribly with the Republican vote and lower turnout overall, just because it's so polarized, because he's so polarizing. So he would lose Arizona by 3 or 4 points. And again, these are guesstimates because we don't have polling data, so yeah. Now, really quickly, I want to tag Nevada as lean Sanders. It would be similar. He might actually do better in Nevada than Biden, just because he has better support with the Hispanic vote. In Nevada is kind of moderate, but that doesn't really matter your positions. It comes down to running up the score in Clark County, which Biden would do the same or a little worse than Sanders at. So yeah. Now moving on to the Rust Belt, it's going to come down to the Rust Belt, guys. You knew it. Nebraska's 2nd district. We're going to give that or put that blue just barely. And I say, and Biden went about like 9 or 10% in this year, but honestly, Kara Eastman lost. She ran as a progressive. She lost that district. I think Sanders would win it by less than 1% for the record. So, yeah. But just because of the fact that this district likes Democrats at the presidential level, because they rejected Kara Eastman, but Joe Biden won by like 10 points here. So Kara Eastman underperformed Joe Biden by 12 points here. So you can tell that this district is very moderate for one thing. They also tend to vote with the Rust Belt, And, obviously, I think Biden is better for the Rust Belt than Sanders for a lot of reasons, and we're going to get into that in a second. But either way, Sanders takes the district by like less than 1%, just because it's a blue district at this point. But he'd significantly underperform Biden. So first, we're going to give Minnesota to Bernie Sanders, and we're going to give Wisconsin to Donald Trump. So Trump's basically already won the election. Now, I say this because, first of all, Minnesota, you really got to remember that Minnesota is a blue state, and it was close in 2016. Yes, in this theoretical matchup, it would be close again. It would be lean Sanders, except he underperformed. He did very poorly in the primary in 2016 against Clinton, who was the bad candidate for this whole area. I don't know how he lost that primary. But either way, I do think that Minnesota would, it would tilt to Sanders. It would be like 1.5 to 2%, so basically the same margin as Hillary Clinton in 2016. Because the white vote here is more college educated than the rest of the Rust Belt, which helps Sanders, but they don't have a big black voting bloc the way Michigan does. So, yeah. So Sanders nearly takes Minnesota. Just it's just a blue state, and I don't see him underperforming Biden enough to make him lose the state. Wisconsin, though, would go to Trump, maybe even by a lean margin, but just to be conservative, we'll put it as a tilt margin. Just a lot of non-college educated whites who went for Biden because he was on the same ballot as Obama, because he ran a campaign based on this whole region, because he was from Pennsylvania, because he came from humble beginnings. Now, so did Bernie Sanders, I believe, but just wouldn't be enough to win him the state of Wisconsin. Same with Pennsylvania. I think his Green New Deal stance is really going to hurt him there. So he'd lose Pennsylvania too. And really, I do think that Pennsylvania would be out of reach for. You know what? We'll put it as lean just because of the fact. Well, in New Jersey is not red, and we'll put that as lean just because of the fact that of his support for the Green New Deal. One of these states is going to be lean, but Pennsylvania, it'll be like 2.2% margin of victory for Trump. In Wisconsin, it'll be like 1.8, something like that. Now, Michigan is the pure toss-up here, but I don't like to leave toss-ups. It's unsatisfying, so we're going to give it to Bernie Sanders. You know what? Actually, we're going to give it to Trump. And I say this because of the fact that in 2016 he was able to win it, and I think that Biden or Sanders would have underperformed Clinton with the black vote. We would have seen lower turnout. Because remember, people say Biden's not, people don't have enough enthusiasm about Joe Biden to turn out for him. But there is a lot of anti-Trump enthusiasm in the country. And Bernie would be able to channel that to a certain extent, but not really because of the fact that he's so polarizing. So Michigan goes to Donald Trump. Sanders can run up the score in like Wayne County, but he underperforms Biden everywhere else, especially with the working class. So Sanders gets 233 electoral votes. Trump gets 305 electoral votes. Trump wins re-election against Bernie Sanders. Now, Michigan is obviously the tightest state. I think Wisconsin, too. Now, Sanders' pathway to victory, he'd have to win Wisconsin, Michigan. He'd have to win Pennsylvania, which I don't think he can do. And then other than that, I think it's pretty restricted. So Sanders, pretty restricted path to victory. So, again, guys, thanks for watching the video. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. And I know I talk too fast, but that's not my problem. Thank you. Goodbye.